better known anyway.
3,
It fits more.
2, 1. It's not easy being green. It's not easy running a podcast, and that's all I want to say because I don't want to get sued by Disney. That doesn't even sound like Kermit. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 97th episode of Thursdays with Moire. Title: It's not easy being green. What's the similarity between these three films? They all have green in the title. That's pretty much it. That's the only similarity. We can't keep getting away with this, guys. This is getting out of hand. I'm your host, Dean Taylor. Joining me tonight is my wonderful co-host, artist, and musician, Devin King. And we have not one, but two guests with us tonight. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Darryl, you first.
Sure, I'm Darryl, cinematographer over here at Orange Hat Film Productions, and I may not be featured as much as everybody else tonight, but I'll probably be popping in here and there. But yeah, that's me.
Sounds good.
Oh, yeah.
Tad.
Hi, I'm Tad. I am the occasional guest star on this podcast. I am a bit of a chronic dabbler, I guess you could say. I do a little bit of directing. I do a little bit of writing. Right now, I'm currently focusing on character design and special effects. And yeah,
And what kind of
that's
character?
me.
But Tad, what kind of character design do you do?
Oh, all kinds of character designs. I mean, like I'm currently going to school for 3D character design, learning how to make like creepy creatures and stuff like that, but also learning a lot about like hand-drawn character design. I did work on the Star Wars D&D campaign that we're running, so you can see some of my art there.
Yeah,
You can the plug.
You could see it in the trailer for the Star Wars 5e campaign. It is a 4-part miniseries based off the Star Wars 5th edition system. Tad's in it, Devin's in it. We're having a great time. It's a lot sillier than I expected, but you know, we're rolling with it. So continue to see how it goes. Episode 3 is gonna air. I would actually like to suggest we run it on. Okay, I'm hearing my voice on your end, Tad. Like, I don't know why that is. I know you're wearing a headset, but
Tad.
yeah,
I
I know you're wearing a headset, but maybe it's just me. Okay, never mind. Let's keep going. Anyways,
It's just the sweet timbre of your voice cutting through.
yeah, maybe I'm echoing. I don't know what.
I'm
it is.
hearing doubles.
Okay.
I'm hearing doubles.
Hello.
I'm seeing double. I'm hearing double. It's a real trip.
Yeah, it is picking up on your end, Tad. Like, I don't know why that's happening. I get you wearing a headset.
Maybe I lower down the volume a little bit. How's that? Is that a little bit better?
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, let's do
Hello. Yep, that's better. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so you can find out over on our YouTube channel, along with the Call of Cthulhu one shot we ran a while back, along with this podcast. I don't know about you guys, but green is not my favorite color, but it is my favorite kind of episode. That was terrible. I'm sorry. Somebody please shoot me.
Well, I don't think anyone's going to be green with envy after this one.
Hey, he did it.
Boo.
I mean,
Which I feel like we have to maybe dabble a little bit into the color theory in order to make sense of this episode. There's that often expression, green with envy, green thumbs. Yeah, I probably should have done some research into color theory beforehand before I even suggest talking about it. But I'm sure, I don't know. But between us three, I'm sure we know something about this color.
well,
other than it exists.
Green is the color of envy. Green is also, it means go.
Well, when you mix blue and yellow together,
you get green.
It's also nature.
That's true. Yeah. And also, Kermit is green. And that's all that matters. Is that Kermit
and money.
Is green. Yeah, but
yeah.
Money is green. Very important. Green. And, also, food can be green as well. Like Soylent Green. Soylent Green is very green.
That's right.
Let's start off with this crazy ass movie. Devin, take it away.
All right,
Spoilers for all three
so
films.
Soylent Green is a 1973 American ecological dystopian thriller film, as it says on Wikipedia. Um, and it's a film that many Futurama fans remember, and almost nobody else does. Um, that's
Oof.
actually how I first heard it referenced was in Futurama. It was just like a staple food that they all ate, and they didn't really
It
delve
varies
much
from
into
person to person.
it. Yes, it does.
Oh my
So,
god.
um, yeah, Soylent Green. It's a film directed by Richard Fleshner, who's known for a lot of like classic Hollywood tentpole films, including 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which Ian based his Cthulhu one-shot campaign off of,
More
if I recall.
plugs.
Fantastic Voyage and Doctor Dolittle. He's known for these movies, and then this one, which has Charlton Heston, um, who plays a cop, I believe, and he's trying to investigate the production of Soylent Green. Um, and a lot of other things happen. He's good friends with this guy named Saul, who used to remember what the good old days were like back when you could buy fresh beef from the store. Um, Beef is like this very sought after commodity these days because the world's overrun. Um, oh, and it takes place in the distant future year of 2022, which we thought
Whoa.
was I know, right?
Yeah,
Can't
who could imagine a
possibly
world without
imagine.
clean drinking water and low resources in 2022?
Yeah, God.
Or clearing out riots with bulldozers. The
Oh
scoops are
boy.
coming.
Yep. Scoops are coming. Also, how
And
dare you? You forgot Edward G. Robinson. What's wrong with you?
oh, how could I forget?
Yeah, come on, man.
Man,
I think this was his last role, if I'm not mistaken, before he sadly
was
passed
it
away.
really?
I believe
Dude, that's
Damn.
so.
fucked up. No way.
I believe so. And
I have to look at those.
I would
It's
say
based
Yeah.
off of the. It was based off of, or very loosely based off of the science fiction novel "Make Room!" Exclamation mark. Make room! Exclamation mark.
nice title, very subtle.
It
Which
is his
reminds me
last
very
movie.
much
Oh my
of
god.
when I found out There Will Be Blood was based off a book called Oil, which OIL exclamation mark, which that feels like that would be the movie adaptation of a book called There Will Be Blood, not vice versa. And you think Soylent Green was the book title, and Make Room exclamation mark was the
Ah,
Yeah,
too many words.
exclamatory.
Just call it oil.
yeah.
There you go.
It's like the new titles seem better, which is usually the polar opposite. It's the
Mm-hmm.
equivalency of when I come up with an episode title and Devin comes up with a title so much better now. Just like, why didn't I think of that? Why are you making me look bad? Yeah, Soylent Green. I'm gonna come out and say it. This movie's bad. I don't like this
What?
movie.
Whoa!
This movie's bad. I
And your opinion is
could
wrong.
not get what this.
Damn.
You
Okay, I
know,
respect your very wrong opinion.
all of those like jokes about like depressing 70s dystopian movies or like cheesy sci-fi dystopias you see in cartoons or comedies or parodies. This movie felt like the living embodiment to me, and
Because that's what they're making fun of. They're
but
making fun of this movie.
but I
Ian, I have a
can't take
question
any of
for
it
you.
seriously. Yeah.
This movie may be bad, but is it wrong?
No, but just we've kind of addressed this before. It's like just because you have a good message, and I agree with your message, isn't really an excuse to be unsubtle and ham-fisted. And I think like if we're gonna apply that to movies like the Candyman remake or Black Christmas remake, I feel like we gotta apply it to all movies too. And this movie, like I just couldn't get into it. Like it looks great. I'll give it that. On a technical level, this movie is really good, especially for its time and especially for the budget. But it just had no substance to me. Like all of the acting is very wooden and awkward. The dialogue is like very ham-fisted and on the nose. The pacing is really bad. And I'm gonna be honest, like I watched The Green Mile a couple nights ago at 9 o'clock. It's a 3 hour movie, and I was never bored, never felt like sleeping, anything like that. I watched this movie on a Thursday night at 7 o'clock, and I could barely stay awake. I just couldn't get into it. This film just really wasn't for me. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think, because apparently I'm wrong.
Okay, I'll give it to you. There's an aspect of this movie that is okay. The reason it's even made is because there was such a big boom after Planet of the Apes that all they wanted was another like big reveal, like finale that you can get everybody into the theater to fucking like. I'm pretty sure it was, that's how it was advertised, to trying to get that going. So in that regard, it kind of gets like a Bloomhouse syndrome of like, oh, they just churned this one out in some aspects, but in other aspects, I think it really gives a shit. Like, I think it's not subtle for the year 2022, but as the vision of the future, man, it's not that fucking far off. I mean, like, insert Army Hammer joke here, but like, regardless, there's like so much about this movie, down to like the fact that I'm pretty sure the actual like euthanasia pods like designed themselves based on these ones. Like there's like, it's wild how much is actually, in
Oh,
this.
And there's nothing
yeah,
wrong
like
with that.
I was watching through
Yeah.
this film and just thinking about how many things did they predict right, and most of the things they predicted are wrong. And then I see they have the assisted suicide. I'm like, oh, that is happening now.
Yeah, and
It's
there's
also the most
And
yeah.
beautiful scene of the movie. I gotta like,
it is.
it
I
is
have to
the
say,
best
like, oh,
shot executed. Like, I feel like somebody on that set had something like that. Well, not so, a death experience recent that gave a shit and really made that scene something extra.
Yeah, I'll give it that. Like it's a very well shot movie, very aesthetically pleasing, and there's nothing wrong with being relevant, and there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. However, I guess my big problem is that I just didn't care. Like all these horrific things are happening, all this touchy subject matter is pressed upon, but it's like I got like I was almost finished the movie and I feel like nothing happened. Like I just couldn't connect with any of the characters and what they're going through, and I think a dystopia completely falls flat for me if I just have no emotional connection to what they're going through. Like if the characters don't look like they care about the awful world they live in, then why should I?
Yeah,
But
but
that's
isn't
well,
that
you
part
kind
see
of
of
the
it.
that.
It's
point?
normalized to them. And
Yeah.
But
in the 70s, this was a horrific future. You're just desensitized because you live in a world. So,
You live
like,
in
we
that
don't
future.
we don't
but
have the big plot twist at the end, as far as we know. Fucking looking at you, fucking big corporations. Like, but you know
look
what
at
I
you,
mean.
Amazon. Yeah.
Oh God,
Uh,
yeah. I don't know.
Here's a question: how shocked would you guys be if they found out that there was a percentage of human in some of the food we're eating, like processed food? How
Yeah,
shocked would you actually be?
Very. Yeah.
probably
Tad,
not this shocked.
chicken wings are part of human thighs. Do you still
Chicken
eat them?
wings are people.
I mean, animals are technically people, so you connect the dots together, and there you go.
I mean, plants are
But
alive,
yeah,
so.
it just seems fitting that it's hard to care about this movie because it just feels like the world we're in,
I
more or less.
mean,
Like there's a lot of things it gets wrong, obviously, like very limited
It's incredibly
technology. But in
dated.
terms of
Yeah.
here's the
or
thing. Your mileage with this movie is really going to depend on its final act, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the thing that everybody kind of comes to see. That's the thing that everybody kind of remembers. Like that's the thing that
it's
everybody
the hook
quotes.
is
Like
the twist.
Well, here's the
Is it
thing.
though?
Yeah, here's the thing. I watched the movie somehow not knowing about the pop culture zeitgeist and the fact that was referenced a billion times in Futurama and other comedies. I somehow missed all of that, and I had no idea what to expect from the story. But as soon as they talked about Soylent Green for the first time, I was thinking it's people. It's people. Like that's going to be the plot twist. It's people because like they're talking about like dealing with issues with the environment. Nothing's growing right. There's no supply. So I thought it's people. Like it's so predictable. It's not a twist for me. Like
okay,
maybe
but
it's
are you
just because
saying
I'm
it's predictable
desensitized.
because, like you said, it's kind of hard to escape that cultural zeitgeist, or like because that's where I
Yeah,
think it's
I
kind of
think part
going.
because
of it
that'll
is
still
also
be
Soylent
in the
Green is people as a
subconscious.
phrase it's been thrown.
yeah. I guess part of it too is like I've seen so many dystopias by now that maybe I've seen so many stories. Like maybe I would have connected with this movie more by the time it came out. But I'd argue even at the time it came out, it's still incredibly dated. Like the '70s was a great time for movies that felt timeless and that held up over the years. And even if they had a super low budget, like something like Halloween or Texas Chainsaw, yeah, those films are much less ambitious, but they somehow managed to hold up way more than this film does. Like the whole time I was just thinking like this just feels like the 70s. Like this doesn't feel like a
Well,
future
yeah,
at all.
because Halloween's trying to recreate a fucking suburbia full of a couple houses and people. Like, it's
Yeah,
not
it's
like
nowhere near as ambitious.
taking
I'll give you that.
anywhere near as yeah, it's taking a big swing, and that's where it may fall short, sure. But like, also, I feel like this happened to you a bit with fucking what was it, Back to the Future, where you just had such a odd opinion of it because you knew of the movie but never watched the movie, and then once you saw it you'd seen like a million things reference it, so
Yeah,
it's
but I
like
enjoyed Back to the
fail,
Future a
you know what I
lot
mean?
more. Like I feel like Back to the Future knew what it was a little more, and because of that, I could kind of enjoy it. I feel like this film thinks it's a lot more clever than it is. That is the impression I got with it. And yeah, like the imagery is great, but I thought a lot of the acting was terrible. And yeah, I know they're supposed to be desensitized, but I I don't know. I find that excuse kind of overrated. Like unless humans are literal robots, there is no excuse to act this one in the movie. I'm sorry. I'm gonna come out with the hot take and say it. The bad acting doesn't make Silent Hill better. The bad acting doesn't make like really old Kubrick movies better. It makes them bad. They're just bad acting. They don't add to the experience. It wasn't like an artistic genius decision. It was just the director didn't know how to direct actors. And anytime they did have emotion, it was like the most unconvincing, fake crying, fake laughing. There's a scene when they're in the shower that's like the most laughable example of fake laughing like I've ever seen in a movie. Like, have these people ever laughed in real life? Like, maybe that's again the point, but I don't know. I just found it really annoying, and it kept pulling me out of the experience personally. And here's the thing: Brazil is a world where people are desensitized to everything that's happening, but I felt like the characters had much more emotion in that, and I felt like they were desensitized in ways that were believable. Like it's not so much we're gonna act robotic; we're just gonna act like calm and neutered and like maybe just joke about things we probably shouldn't joke about. That's kind of more along the lines of what I'd expect of people being desensitized in dystopia. But here it's just like I just got the impression you didn't know how to direct these actors, and the actors just didn't know what they were doing. Sorry, I'm ranting.
Okay.
I just really could not go this movie.
Yep.
Yeah, like I
Well, I
said,
don't know.
like
It might just be something of the style of the directing, because this guy is very much like an older Hollywood director, and maybe that was just that's just what was fitting for the time of him directing. And there are these other younger people coming out at the time who are doing things differently, and not much later you have Terry Gilliam and others who kind of bring that younger, fresh energy into it, where they have maybe more emotion. Um,
well,
displayed in
I
this
don't
way.
know if I agree with that because movies like Planet of the Apes, movies like 2001: Space Odyssey have way more emotion put into the performances.
No, and who were making them? There was younger people making them.
Well, Richard Fleischer made the first Planet of the Apes. I'm pretty sure. Like, this is the same director. I
I don't think so. I don't think he made
No,
Planet of the Apes.
Was he?
I don't think
No,
so
he
either.
was not. Okay. Well then, I don't know. Like, it's just I feel like emotional connection is so important in dystopia, and that's why like people being like emotionally disengaged without at least one character having like a bit of a heart and soul, at least a little bit, it just really doesn't work with me. And there's so many scenes where the dialogue is just so in your face. I had it in my notes where I said, I swear to God, if I get one more monologue about how things used to be, like I will throw this TV out the window. Like I could not handle any more monologues about how the way things used to be better and things were great once upon a time. It's like, okay, Ruben, I get it.
Is it
You wish
because you
things
see
were
See,
them
that
in
different.
would
real
be an
life all the
issue for
time?
me if it wasn't for the fact that
Richard, so,
people even to this day still do that.
well, people
Like
to this
how
day
Yeah,
like
do it,
hang
but
out
it's
with
I hear
justified
you.
anybody
when he
from a
does it.
different generation and they all say the
I,
same thing.
it
Well, it
doesn't
used to be better
feel
in my time.
critical of that behavior is my problem. Like those are the characters we're supposed to root for. Is my problem with it. And I'm just like, okay, so the writer clearly thinks this way. Like that's the impression I get with that. Like it doesn't feel critical of that behavior at all. It's just like, oh, no, things used to be better until like all these kids came
Yeah,
along and
because it
threw up
used
these
to be
police
better because they
riots.
weren't cooking people into food. Like They are right. It
But
used to be
I don't
better.
care. I know they're right, but it's the way they're presenting the fact that they're right that I have a problem with. Like, yes, it's relevant. Yes, there's some really cool imagery. Like, yes, it was accurate in its predictions, but The Simpsons is accurate in its prediction, and I don't love every episode of The Simpsons. Like, that show wasn't inherently great because it made a lot of predictions about the future. It was great for other reasons. It got lucky, you know? And, like, obviously some of it's based on realities of what was happening at the time. Like, police riots were an increasing issue because of the Vietnam War, and there was this sense of paranoia that a lot of 70s films tackled at the time. But like, just being right doesn't inherently mean you're a good movie. It takes a little more than that. It takes a little more heart and soul.
I think it's been kind of considered a cult classic since, just because of mostly because of the messaging, I would say.
Oh,
But
definitely.
also because the writers of Futurama would reference it often,
And because
and
there's some cool
it had that,
shots.
and it has no, like, it has that pop culture reference. I'm not even talking about the cinematography. I'm just talking about the ideas presented.
Oh, for sure.
And Soylent Green is people has become a common phrase. In fact, it was in they actually referenced it in Cloud Atlas, if you remember that. When
I
the old man was like walking out of the nursing home or something, he just starts yelling that out.
Was that what that? Holy shit!
Yeah,
I
that
just had a
that
huge brainwave right now.
and I think that's why you knew what the twist was, Ian, because that was subconsciously planted
Yeah, there's
Maybe
no
from
way
that
you
movie.
didn't
that's
know of the
maybe
twist.
Yeah,
that's
you
fair.
had to have known.
Well,
Like,
I
it's hard.
guess
It's like
yeah.
Darth Vader is Luke's father. Like, it's just you can't escape it. Everybody
The
knows that.
twist is the twist is the hook.
Yeah, well, I guess my bigger problem is, yeah, that's a shocking twist. Too bad I didn't care about anything. Like, I
Uh,
can't stress enough how much I wasn't
it's
really
too
from the
bad we
film.
grow up in a world where worse things have happened.
It's too
Since
bad we grow up in a world where characters are unengaging and bland and horribly acted.
I mean, you have to give it credit though. It is somewhat culturally significant, though,
It
right?
again, like, I don't deny that whatsoever. I do not deny its cultural significance, and I don't think it's like angry or spiteful or cynical or lazy. It was just a failure. There was
But
nothing
even
that's
today, like,
yeah,
it's still kind of culturally significant. Like, that's kind of the
yeah.
thing with this. Like, this is the
I'm not
future that
disagreeing with that.
Thanos is trying to stop. Like,
I'm not disagreeing with that. But that doesn't inherently make it a good movie, is my argument.
mm,
Like, and a lot of people praise the scene where they're loading up the people into the garbage trucks. I have a confession to make. I laughed so hard that scene, and again, the messaging behind it is good, but the way it's delivered felt like slapstick. Like, every time somebody got scooped up, I'm like, okay, you're just accepting your death. Like, there's no way you can't just climb out. There's no way you can't just climb out and go around the sides. Like, I feel like that would have been fixed if they killed the people first and then load them into the trucks. But they just load the people into the trucks while they're still alive because that's, like, more shocking, I guess. Like, but
because
you did,
they've lost the will to live.
but
Like,
they lost
that's
it.
like, again, it
So
goes to that
every
whole
single
point
one
that
of those
like
guys
everybody
lost
is
will to
like,
live. Even the guy that was smiling while he was about to get processed because they couldn't catch down the filmmaking room. Sorry, editing
well,
room.
if you can't look at death in the face and smile, then you're not winning.
Oh my god.
damn,
Guys are
okay,
probably
that
nuts.
just got deep.
Yeah, that oh man.
I'm just trying to justify the silliness a little bit here, but
Yeah.
I do think that we can't help but watch this film without our modern, cultural lens context, kind of looking back
But
at it.
there's
It's hard to
so
imagine
many other
what
films
it was
around the
like
time that
being
made
there in
so
the
much better.
70s. I know, but we're still looking at all this in retrospect, and we look back at this and laugh in retrospect. But there are some general things that I do think it got right, um, and
And
why I wanted to bring it up on the podcast. Well, not only does it take place this year,
oh yeah,
and we can
that's a
kind of
big
look
reason.
back at it and laugh in some things, but I do think the truth is worse things have happened that it
Yeah,
didn't predict,
unfortunately, yeah.
and that's what makes this laughable kind of in retrospect.
It's laughable because it's bad. Like, I'm sorry, like, I can't.
It's
This
bad, but it's not wrong.
I agree. It's bad, but it's not wrong. I agree. Candyman remake was also not wrong, but it's bad. The Black
Also,
Christmas remake was also not wrong, but it's bad. Like,
Also, I don't know if you can really call it a failure when it had a $4 million budget and made $210 million.
Well, what was the
So
budget of
Oh,
like
that's true.
Tarkovsky's
it's a
movies?
really good return.
Like that's fair. Like I'm not saying like box office failure. I'm saying like
Yeah, no,
failure in terms
Oh,
of
just a
quality.
failure to you. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. A personal
Okay.
failure,
Sorry.
we'll say. Let's put it this way: it just wasn't for me.
Somebody
We'll
get
just say
Richard
that.
Fletcher on the phone.
Yeah, somebody get Richard
on.
Fletcher so I can praise him
Dig-
for his good work on 20,000 Leagues Beyond the Sea.
Dig him out of his grave and get him on the phone.
You want to talk about boring movies? 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Oh,
Now,
I
that's
see.
Oh,
I
here we
see what
go.
you're doing. I see what you're doing. All right.
Tit for
You're
tat.
pulling a Steven. I get it. Your stupidness level.
Tit for
Okay,
tat.
well,
the
somebody's
stuff.
got to do it when he's not here.
Oh yeah, fair point. Yeah,
Exactly.
before he comes and
Someone
tells
has
us
to
we're
do the
wrong
boil
for the
here.
Green Knight, let's talk about Molly's Way. Yeah, I'll give it some compliments. Like I said, it looks great. The production design was super solid, especially for the budget. Like it's one of those production designs where it was hard to tell. Like you could tell what was sets and what wasn't, but at times it was definitely more seamless than I was expecting. Like apparently, like the whole scene of the church was one big set, but it's like, you know what? This actually feels pretty real. Like, which is surprising. Especially for like such a low budget. And I kind of like that seamless blend of scenery. And I shine the performances, but Edward G. Robinson is such a good actor that he even makes this script work. Like his character was kind of obnoxious, but the actor was definitely trying. And there was actually a pretty wholesome scene of them like eating food for the first time and like really enjoying it. It was like your point you're making here isn't subtle, but it's like cute and charming and kind of heartfelt, and it was really the only time I felt anything from the movie, to be honest. Because
Well,
Edward G.
yeah,
Ross
that's
is
the
just a good
cores.
enough actor.
But that's the thing is like the how rare a real human relationship in that kind of world would be. Like that's what makes that
I guess.
like that's
Yeah.
why those scenes are so special, and that's why the goodbye is so powerful. It's not just like, he can go lean on anyone. I gotta say though, like the whole female relationship in this. It's been a while since I seen this. It wasn't too long ago, but like I just remember there's some smacking of women for like basically no reason.
Oh, yeah, shock value.
Yeah.
Basically.
And it's just like, dear God, like
yeah, I know.
certain okay, all adding up to my larger point, which is that this is the movie that is the most ripe and prime for like a proper fucking reboot or redo remake.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hmm.
In a world
100%.
where like
Okay.
there's so many bad remakes of amazing films that just don't touch it, there's so many little things wrong with Soylent Green that like a proper like get Villeneuve to do it and you're good. Like
Yeah,
let Deacon shoot it,
I
get
can see
Villeneuve to
that,
shoot
yeah.
like direct it. You're gonna have the best Soylent Green movie ever.
I'll do you
But
one
it's
better.
like
I would watch the shit out of that film.
I'll do you one better. Who shot the Batman? Was it Greg Fraser?
yeah, Junior
Great,
Deakins.
yeah. Have him shoot it in the same style as the Batman, like that dark, grimy, nasty atmosphere.
Yeah, that's
And
yeah.
that is
That
potentially-
Gotham is a better
alright.
Soylent Green setting.
Just-
than
I,
Soylent
I,
Green
I, I have
does.
a, I have a almost completely different pitch. Well, you have say that cinematography for it, but then say you have a documentary crew trying to uncover this kind of thing, and it gets into this whole,
that could be fun.
Herzog
it-
has to do it.
yeah,
Yes!
yeah.
Yes.
You could even go kind of the route of like truth in media or kind of things like that. Like the reporter
that's exactly what
discovers
I
the
was
secret,
thinking. Like it
and
gets
it's
into
like
the whole,
Yeah,
it
that'd be
gets
so
into the
much
whole
more interesting.
bureaucracy of it, and the further you look into it, the more complex and confusing it gets, kind of thing. And it's like, oh, we've been doing this for years, and you didn't know about it, kind of thing.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
well, it'd be
that
kind of
may-
like the ending of like Watchmen or something, where it's like, well, do you reveal how the sausage is made and like potentially fuck up the only solution we have, or do you like keep the secret and know this dirty shit that's going down, like,
it's like
but
it's
do
like the
nothing about it?
variation of the trolley problem where there is no train to derail. It's a single track and everybody's on it, and if we stop it now, we end progress.
Okay, we need to
everyone's dead.
remake this movie. Shit.
Yeah,
like,
I've
let's
been
do
literally
it, yeah.
saying this for you. Okay, low-key, I pitched the Green trilogy forever ago, but then it got turned into like 7 different things. But Soylent Green somehow always remained. So the
It always
only
had
reason
that.
I pitched that is because in fucking college I was like, I need to remake this, but I could never do it and I could never crack it. You guys just cracked it, so yeah, we have to fucking
Yeah, let's do it
There we
together.
go. That's
we must
that'll
do
be
it.
that'll be the pretentious asshats first official production is a Soylent Green
Yay!
remake.
At
Uh,
least a script that we can show and be like, hey, fuck you all, we
yeah,
did it.
let's. Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. We'll have the script made, but it'll never see the light of day. It'll be a Napoleon or Treasure Planet 2 all over again.
Oh, don't remind me about Treasure Planet 2.
I know it was gonna have Willem Dafoe in it, man. He was gonna
Yes,
play
I
a
know.
robot pirate.
But
Oh man,
I do think this ties into our theme from last week about cannibalism. This is more like systemic cannibalism.
this should have been
Ooh.
on the list last week. That's 100%
I
should
know.
have been on
Well,
the list.
no, I wanted fucking Green Inferno to be on this week.
But then we'd have
although
to watch the Green Inferno.
Yeah,
See
that's
what
true.
you did?
And then there'd be two
Put us in-
cannibalism films that are green, so we'd have to find a third cannibalism film that's green, and that could be.
Yeah.
That's tricky. That's tricky.
See, it's a whole. We did what we did. It's already laid.
Yeah, it's happened. It's done. It's over with. Soylent Green is people, folks, and let's rate it.
No, you gotta say it right, Ian.
Soylent
Green,
Green
is
is
people!
Yeah, see, they avoid all of that
Stop 'em!
deep conversation to have the yelling at the end. That's the key. You need Charlton Heston
yeah.
to yell in the streets.
Yeah.
Just freeze frame with
I'm
the
a
blood
va-
in his hand of his best friend.
Yeah, man, the scene where he ran the streets and said, "I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire!" was very strange. Must have
Yo,
watched a different
Oscar
cut.
Isaac should be in the remake.
Oscar Isaac should be in the
Yo.
remake. Who should play the old man? Anthony Hopkins.
Hopkins is so
Oh.
perfect for that.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Especially
Goddamn.
Anthony Hopkins.
It writes
now.
itself.
Yeah. What would you guys rate it? I think I've said my piece about this movie.
Well,
Well,
what would
I'm
you rate
giving
it?
it a 6.9.
Nice.
Really?
Don't think less of me, guys. I've given it 4 out of 10. I really
I
did not
already
like it.
do, Ian. Don't worry.
I mean,
I
you already
already
think
did.
less of me for not liking other movies on the podcast, so you know, you thought less of me for
Can't
not
think
liking
less
John
than
Gus
zero.
Gunn. Yeah, it's 4 out of 10. It looks nice, but I just had no connection to it whatsoever, and I was really struggling to stay away from this one. I'm sorry, I almost couldn't do it. I almost gave in, but I held on
Fair enough.
for you guys.
8.5 for historical reasons and because it did connect with me, unlike with Ian's.
Oh, hey, you rate it whatever you want, man.
I think Saul's death scene that scene was like an 8 out of 10.
Yeah,
if not
yeah.
more. Like just that scene. Like that is what to me felt like the heart of the movie. I don't know.
100%.
And I think Panos Cosmatos got inspiration for that for Beyond the Black Rainbow at some point. Actually, it just feels
yeah,
like
I could see that.
the whole institute kind of.
Yeah, I could see
there.
a little bit of Alex Garland there too, with Devs or Annihilation.
If actually, this is a question I have for you guys. If you were about to have assisted suicide, would you have what kind of music would you have playing?
So I'll let Tad rate it first. Tad, what would you give it out of 10 before I give my answer?
I'll give it a 7.5.
Nice. The song I would pick is "I'm in Heaven, I'm in Heaven."
Okay, so we're just going into the next movie and
Yep.
with that transition.
That's why I want you to rate first. It was a
Wow.
surprise. Plot twist, everybody.
Perfect.
Green Mile.
I would've
Spoilers.
There we go.
Okay, hit me up when it's over. I've never seen Green Mile. Bye.
All
Oh,
right.
no.
See.
Okay.
All right, Tad, you got this.
See you, Darryl.
Yeah, all right. The Green Mile. It is a Stephen King adaptation of one of his non-horror movie books. It's directed by Frank Darabont, who has done some other Stephen King adaptations. He did The Shawshank Redemption. He did The Mist. I think he also worked on The Walking Dead, or he helped that show or something like that. It is a... What year did this come out? 1999?
1999.
Yeah, 1999 film about a bunch of guards on death row who are affected by one of the... Well, they get a new inmate in, and he might have some... he might be more than what he seems to the layman. And Yeah, it's a drama fantasy. It's got Tom Hanks, Michael Clark Duncan, and probably one of his like I think career-defining roles. Did he win an Academy Award for
He
this? I
was
think he did.
nominated. He did
He
not
was
win.
nominated.
There
Okay.
were no Academy Awards handed out for this movie or The
Oh
Shawshank
fuck
Redemption.
this.
Damn.
Well, that's disappointing. Yeah. So it's that's what it's about.
Yeah,
That's my introduction.
The Green Mile.
Nice.
So this movie was an excuse for me to finally watch The Shawshank Redemption. Took me a while. I
Wow.
know it's
But
crazy.
we're not going to talk about that film. We're going
What?
to talk about The Green
Yeah, we're
Mile.
gonna talk about The
So,
Green Mile. So I'll give my short thoughts on that another time, perhaps. The Green Mile. Watched it, and it was all right. It was decent. It was
ooh,
fine. There was a
okay.
there was a review I read online that basically said uh, the production design is great, the filmmaking is great, the casting is great, all of the pieces are there, but it just feels like it's adapting a source material that wasn't all that great to begin with. And I think I kind of agree with that review. Like all of the pieces are in place, all of the ingredients are there, but it feels like they didn't know how to cook it. Like all of the actors are trying their best. The filmmaking is absolutely stunning. The cinematography, the lighting, the set design in particular. It's kind of nice to have a 90s Hollywood movie with sets that look like grungy and dirty, which isn't something you kind of see enough of in that Hollywood sheen. But I just could not connect with the story at all, and everybody
So
kind of felt like a caricature, and it was just a little too one dimensional for me, I think, was my
Wow.
biggest issue.
Okay.
Ian, when you say they didn't know how to cook it, are you saying they should have or shouldn't have wet the sponge?
Oh, you always wet the sponge. You always wet the
Yes, you
sponge.
do.
Damn.
And why don't you use a dry sponge? Well,
Um, because that's how you really fry it.
yeah, they cooking them
No,
good.
okay, so I remember watching this movie when I was really young, and it very much emotionally affected me. And I
Mhm.
can't help but feel that or connect back to that every time I watch it. I mean, I come back every maybe few years to maybe watch it again, but I still do think it holds that kind of special place for me. Like there is a
Nice.
certain sadness that comes with it. However, I have reflected on that a little bit since rewatching. I do think still it's a really well made movie, but there was a blurb on Common Sense Media that I read, and I think most people agree that it is a bit dated, just with the depiction of the of Michael Clark Duncan's character, um, being basically the epitome of the quote unquote magical Negro
Hey,
stereotype,
can't say the N
which
word.
Yeah.
I don't think was the point of that character, but unfortunately it does kind of 100% play into that stereotype. The reason they treat him as human is because he acts very childlike, despite his huge kind of demeanor, and he does mean well, but he is, convicted of murder wrongfully by
Yeah.
these racists in the movie. These these
And
real
that's
hip
kind of
kind
where
of
I do think it's important to note that like unlike other depictions of that stereotype or that trope, this one does kind of at least attempt to acknowledge the fact that like he's here because of like it's kind of a racist like he's living in a racist world. Like race
Yes.
does play a huge part of his character. Like the reason why he does what he does at the end is because the world is so shitty to him. And it is like kind of like this Christ-like figure and like it is like a little on the nose, I guess you could say. But yeah, no, like I totally it's definitely I don't want to say the word problematic, but it's definitely an iffy depiction of that kind of stereotype. It's not the worst example of the trope, but it is still part of the trope.
Well, here's my
yeah,
question. Do you think the
unfortunately.
book had the first depiction? Do you think the book came up with that depiction? Has there really been that kind of depiction beforehand?
I'm
I
pretty
believe
sure
they
there was
did.
examples before the Green Mile, but the Green Mile was the one that kind of set the trope into the public
Yeah.
uh zeitgeist, I
Well,
guess you could say.
here's kind of my problem with it. It's not so much the racial implications, but more so it just feels like the film was insisting upon itself. Like I had no problem relating with the character in the situation and empathizing with his childlike behavior and empathizing with the society around him and the fact that like he's going to die in a few weeks. He's going to die no matter what he does or how he behaves. He's going to get on that chair at some point. So the fact that the film has to take that step further and literally make him Black Jesus just really rubs me the wrong way, and not just because it's a race thing, but because it almost feels like Stephen King didn't think we could relate to the character without those aspects, but those aspects kind of took away from my connection with the character the most because those aspects felt very silly and kind of out of place with the rest of the story to me. Like Stephen King has a habit of shoving spiritual elements and magical elements in so many of his stories, and here I found it was
You could
completely
make the
out of
argument
place.
that's kind of a flaw with Stephen King in general.
Oh,
Like a lot
absolutely.
of his characters in
Absolutely.
all of his books are a little like even in this movie we still have that cliche like I am an asshole just because
Oh
I'm an
yeah,
asshole.
yeah.
Like
Oh
Oh my
yeah,
god.
that's Percy in a nutshell. It's like the second you see him on screen, you want to punch the kid's face.
Well,
oh,
Just
here's
he's a
the
slimy little fucker. Like yeah.
nobody
oh yeah.
with that haircut is a good person. All right, I'm just gonna put that out there. If you have a haircut like Percy does in this movie, fuck you. Get a haircut. Change your hair,
Oh
man.
yeah.
But
Get a
yeah,
haircut, you hippie.
even like aspects of his character felt like really cheap and manipulative, like with the whole mouse. Like, oh, the nice prisoner, he's playing with the mouse, he's doing tricks with the mouse. And the bad guy, like, oh, he tries to kill the mouse and he actually does at one point. It's like, come on, this is so cheap and played out. Like, it's the equivalency of a villain
True, but we
killing a
need that scene
dog.
in there because that's how everybody learns of John Coffey's powers. Like he
his
saves the mouse.
his Black
That's the
Jesus
way
powers.
It's
it
yeah. It's
develops
like
the plot. It moves it forward.
Yeah,
it's like he saves the mouse, and after he saves the mouse, then suddenly we're not so weirded out when he grabs what's his name's crotch, because oh, he's helping him. He's
God.
not sexually assaulting him.
Yeah, was I the only one who laughed at that scene? Was I the only one who was just like, what is
Yes.
happening? Because I didn't know this was going to be a magic movie. Again, this is another movie where I somehow missed down the zeitgeist and went into it as blind as possible.
Wait,
Mostly
this is
out
a
of
magic
respect.
movie?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a
yeah,
magic
it's a
movie.
magic movie. A
Sorry.
movie about incarcerating prisoners and societal racism is a magical movie.
I
I don't
like
know.
your
I have
funny
problems
words,
with that.
Magic Man.
I like your funny words, Magic Man. uh, but so much of the film just felt really emotionally manipulative, and I get that every movie is emotionally manipulative, but I think the best films are either like more resonant or more subtle about it. And this film, I
Okay.
just
Here's the
constantly got
thing
the
with
impression it was
subtlety
transferred.
though. Like I'm going to argue a little bit on this whole like, oh, it's not subtle or,
Do it.
sometimes when you're making a movie or when you're telling a form of art, sometimes you do have to throw subtlety out the window in order to land a proper, in order for the emotion to properly land.
Do
Like,
you?
look at any fucking movie that you think of that like strikes you in your core and like hurts you. It's not due to subtlety. They are actually like they're trying to make you cry. Like
Yeah,
subtlety isn't a bad thing, but the lack of subtlety isn't a bad thing either.
I think it depends on the circumstances. Like, you don't necessarily have to be subtle, but it has to feel earned, I guess, in a way. And it just, I don't know. It didn't
Sure.
feel like the film earned it.
And
A
I
lot of
think
it
every
feels earned
scene
to
that
me.
this Yes, exactly. I was just going to say that. I think every scene that is emotional hits because of like it hits properly. Like, I'm sorry. I've watched this movie a dozens of times. I'm with you, Dev. Like I watched this when I was a kid and like it's got
Mhm.
a special place in my heart for me. I still cry to this day watching this movie. Like it still brings a tear, and that's rare. Like I can't think of another movie that still makes me like tear up and cry and like have genuine emotions that I've seen this many times. Like usually you get like a little numb to it or like you kind of you get used to it, but like no, this film still makes me like legitimately emotional.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
I don't know.
it feels like an unfair kind of conviction happening. But and that's the other thing is like it's so yeah. Well, I have to need a second to wrap my thoughts around this. But
No worries.
yeah, there's the whole magical element of him being this Christ-like figure that's able to take pain away, and he's able to save people, which is why he was caught with the girls in the first place. He saw that they were suffering, but they were already too far gone, and he couldn't do anything about it, which is why he was in total distress. Um, and that leads to his wrongful conviction, um, which is a very clear-cut commentary on the racism of the time, obviously. Um,
Yeah.
but then he sees that Percy's being this kind of real asshole of a character, um, and they're totally setting him up to be like the person that's gonna get his comeuppance toward the end,
Yep.
and he
But I do love
sets
that.
up.
I love that ironic twist with
Oh
Percy's
yeah,
character and the whole like, oh yeah, you could work at this insane asylum and like be one of the guards there, and he ends up being an inmate at that
At that
asylum. Like
asylum. Oh
that
yeah,
you
that
know
is
was like a
oh
I
satisfying little
do
scene.
like that, but it's so fascinating to me. So a lot of stuff happens in this film. It's almost 3 hours, but it breezes by. This is one of those
Absolutely.
two tape VHS tapes that we
yeah.
still have. It's
Or
like
if you have
this
the
and the
DVD,
Titanic.
you gotta take the DVD out and then flip it and play it on the other side.
Oh yeah, but yeah, so he saves he helps a few people once they find out that he has this this ability to help people with pain. Like he takes the tumor out of that woman's head, and I really like that scene together with them. That was really nice, kind of
What's happening
um
to me?
with them connecting afterwards. But then he takes the pain that she had and gives it to Percy, which it's almost like he becomes this like agent of or this arbiter of chaos. I don't know how to describe it, but it
No,
was just so
Arbiter's sound
fascinating how
better.
that power can be used for either thing. Like it is maybe a bad thing, but and Percy kind of earned it. But I wonder how things would be if he maybe didn't earn it as much, and how I'm going to use this word again, problematic that could be. But I did think it was interesting. And then he uses it to kill the guy that actually committed the murder of the two girls.
Sam Rockwell.
Um, although we, although in doing that, it kind of sets him up to even be more convicted to the chair.
Yeah,
So
but here's
there's
the thing. Would
there's a
he
sense of like
even
visceral
if
justice. Sorry,
like
go ahead.
I don't think he would have even been able to get a fair trial even if that new information did come to the
Oh,
light.
absolutely. No, he's screwed
Oh,
either
that's
way.
Like
true.
Yeah.
he was screwed either way, and at least like that was him in some form or another saying like, okay, well like I'm screwed either way. I have to go. In that case, I'm going to make sure that like everybody who, put me here is getting their comeuppance in a way.
Yeah, he even gives the comeuppance to Tom Hanks. Like, just making him live like an eternal life. And that's the punishment he gets for killing one of God's
Oh yeah.
angels.
But is it eternal though? Like they kind of leave it a little
Well,
vague at
it's
the
not
end where it's just like,
eternal, it's just a very long period
But
of
it's
time.
the fact that
yeah.
he's had to watch all of his friends and loved ones die, which that's oh man, I still get emotional just from that thought,
Mm.
like just the
It's
idea
very,
of some of
yeah,
these
Now,
interesting
here's
concept.
here's
Is
the
that
one thing I don't see a lot of people talk about this when it comes to the movie, and I would love to get your guys' opinion.
Go for it.
Do you think that final shot of the mouse is that the mouse passing away, or is that literally just him going to bed?
I think that's left up to your interpretation. I
hmm
think
Okay,
that's the
yeah,
idea,
that's the
because,
point.
It's like
like,
But
the
like, that's
the top
what's your
spinning in
reading
his
of
head.
it? I guess is what I'm
well,
asking.
my reading of it is like he's like Tom Hanks is going to sleep and he doesn't know if he's going to wake up the next morning or not. And the mouse goes to sleep and he doesn't know if he's going to wake up the next morning or not. Like, I think that's the point of the scene. It's like you just don't know. And I don't really have an interpretation on it either way. I think it's left
See, I have the
totally ambiguous.
interpretation that I think that's the mouse passing away, and like, because he makes the line very deliberately, like, "Oh, if John could make a mouse live this long, how long would it be like for a human?" And that's the film saying like, okay, like this mouse has lived for like what, 70, 80, 90 years, if not longer.
So you get a rough idea.
Yeah, you
hmm
can get a rough idea of like where he's at
Yeah,
and
the
like how
numbers
much
don't
longer he
quite
has
add
to
up.
go.
Yeah. What do you think, Devin? Mouse dead? Mouse sleep? Mouse wake?
All I know is that when it faded to black, I felt like fading to black as well, because it
Oh,
was a damn good movie.
damn. Uh-huh. Yeah, I will agree. The one magic trick this film pulled is that it flies by. Like I remember, like I was pretty late at night. I was watching it with my mom. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pause the movie. I was thinking, okay, like I'm like half an hour in
And,
or an hour
and
in.
that's a sign of a damn well made movie, though, right?
A very well
Yes,
paced
100%.
movie. I'll give it that. Like, especially for a movie where it's just people talking. It's very limited settings. Like, it is pretty impressive that it flies by so fast. I remember pausing it, and we were already 2 hours into the movie. I was just like, how did you do that? Like, how is it possible that we've gone so far along? It was crazy to me, and I don't know. Like, I'm not angry at this film at all. Like, I enjoyed it overall for sure, but I just constantly left with the sensation of I feel like this film is expecting me to feel a different way than I do. Like, there's a lot of great scenes in it, a lot of great moments and nuggets, but I never really felt like those scenes were earned for me. Like, I never really feel like I connected with the characters enough in a way that the film was expecting me to. And I don't know, maybe I just went in with super high expectations, but I can you really blame me? Like, this film has a massive cult following. The critics didn't really like it when it came out, but it was a huge financial success. It was nominated for several Oscars, and of course, like people are like talking about it like crazy now. It's got like an 8.3 on IMDb. It's got over a 4.0 rating on Letterboxd. Like, this film clearly resonates with a lot of people, and not to devalue your experience, but I don't know. I wish I could just share it. Maybe I'm a Scrooge. Who knows?
Well, I'm sorry that you don't share it.
Yeah,
I
I
feel
I
like,
am
legitimately
too.
am.
you know, I know Shawshank Redemption, to bring that back in a little bit. That wasn't a huge success when it came out to theaters, but it became more part of the zeitgeist and part of popular culture when it played on TV, and that's when people really started paying attention to it. Um, so you could say it's like one of the best TV films ever made. In that sense, it wasn't made for the TV, but that's where it got popular. And I think this might be kind of in a very similar vein, where it wasn't that critically well reviewed when it first released, but it's gained that notoriety more so over time. Um,
Mhm.
but unfortunately, I do think a lot of TV movies kind of go for this thing and kind of cheapen that effect. But I do think this one actually works rather well still. Then again, I'm watching it with maybe some rose tinted glasses because it is nostalgic for me, and I remember how it made me feel when I was really young, and I can't help but untie that when I watch it. But I do still think it's really effective. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, there's lots
It's
of
still a
problematic.
well-made movie.
Oh,
Like
it's
Oh,
very
like
well
it's a
like
made.
damn well
we
made
all agree
movie.
with that. Like it is a
It's
very really good
like
movie. Like
all of the
Oh yeah.
performances are excellent. It's got a great cast, but they all like pull in the legwork. Even like Harry Dean Stanton, he's in it for free scenes, but he's still hilarious and still
Oh, I
feels like
love
he's giving his all.
walking the
He's so
I'm glad you
mile, walking
mentioned
the
him.
mile,
I want to. It's like, yeah, I got a request. I want to shit in your head. Like,
and I want Mae West to
but
sit on my face because I'm one horny motherfucker.
motherfucker, like he's barely in it, but he crushes it. Like he gives it his all, and I can't really think of a performance that doesn't give it their all. And there isn't like a
Mm.
single line that wasn't delivered unconvincingly. Like even though I think Percy's a cartoon character and it's hilarious in retrospect that he got death threats for playing like such an evil bastard, but still does a good job. Like he still like chews up the scenery like crazy, and he always looks like he's about ready to pass out, which was very appropriate. It's a very sweaty movie too, lots of sweat. Those
Oh
factors
yeah.
being very sweaty, which is also funny.
And you can't ignore, the meme, the contribution to meme culture that this film has created.
Mm, yeah,
It's
that's true. Lots. Yeah, a
What
great.
the shit?
What?
What Devin just posted. Sorry, I didn't
Oh
realize it
yeah.
was on for that.
Let's see what he posted. All right. So.
The
Uh.
sweat, like some things you guys are posting from this movie, I don't know if it's real or not.
Oh
Like, do
no. Yeah.
bees
That
really
is.
shoot out of his mouth? Is that real?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
real.
yeah.
Bees shoot out of his
What?
mouth. Tom Hanks has a bladder infection in this movie, and
Oh,
there's
okay. Well,
a
that's less funny.
there's a quote unquote funny scene where he fucks his wife several times, like after he like gets
Oh
his
yeah.
bladder cancer cured. I'm like, is this supposed to be funny? okay.
It
Like,
was, yes, that was the
all right.
intention.
Yeah, that was
Out
the
of
intention.
context, it's hilarious. In context, it is pretty funny still, but there's a more serious connotation. Like, yeah, he has a really bad bladder infection, and it's like a huge thing for him throughout the movie.
Which
Uh,
you could also make the argument that like the whole bladder affection thing is like maybe like some sort of like it's the film tackling masculinity or like
A
something
little
along
bit.
those lines
Yeah,
of like he literally can't use his junk without it hurting
really.
him, and then the John Coffey like cures that and makes him more of a man. Like I don't know, there's definitely something there. I kind of see
I
what
do like
Stephen
yeah.
King's intention was there.
I do like the line that when he comes back to the mile and he thanks him for helping him, and he very kind of shyly alludes to how he helped, and he says, "Oh, was the missus pleased?" Several
uh,
times.
that was kind of funny. Yeah,
I, that's still one of the best lines in the movie
yeah.
for me.
Several times, like, oh yeah. Uh, yeah, great music too. Like I love Thomas Newman's score, and like the execution scene is probably my favorite scene in the movie. I'm like, oh hey, there's some
Which one?
uh well, the one where they forget to wet a certain sponge. It's this.
Oh man.
Oh no,
What?
See,
Percy didn't
okay, here's the
forget.
thing.
Oh, he didn't forget. No, he
He
didn't
got
forget.
he
Yeah,
got
Yeah.
malicious and he got curious and he's like, "Huh, I wonder what'll happen if I do the one thing I was told I was supposed to do."
yeah.
Well,
I,
here's the thing with this movie that I really, really appreciate. Every death fucking matters. Like it
Yes, it does.
I
every
agree.
fucking
Yeah.
death in this movie hits emotional bullseyes. And like
It also has a
the
plot purpose too. Like it never felt
oh,
like there
totally,
was
Oh,
just
yeah.
death
and
for shock value.
and
But like
also,
it's just one of
I
the
think
like
for people who think that death is amusing or find something intriguing about it, I think it attacks that dead on. Like Percy
yes.
really decides, oh, these people are bad. I'm gonna be just as bad to them, and he gets off on it, right? And that's a very dangerous place to be. And the guards are taking kind of every opportunity to point out how that's a very wrong way of going about things, saying that their debt is owed. We're just here to do a job dispassionately. Like that's the whole
Yeah.
point of this thing. You're not supposed to enjoy it. You fuck. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. You stay and watch. And I'm like, hey, there's some nightmare fuel to that scene. It's like that scene reminds you that hey, Stephen King's a pretty good horror movie writer. Like the way it was edited together was horrifying. There's a nice like bomb under the table element as soon as you see the sponge. It's very well put together. I didn't feel much for it, but I could still appreciate it as a well constructed scene. Like from pretty much every angle beyond just I didn't connect as much as I wanted to. And yeah, I was gonna mention something else. Oh
I
yeah,
was gonna.
sorry, I forgot. That is inspired by a real execution where the police officers quote unquote forgot to wet a sponge and pointed out the victim's head. It took the victim 8 minutes to die from the electrocution. Eight
Jesus.
minutes. Yeah.
And that's really shortened down in the movie. Like Percy,
Oh yeah.
yeah, decides not to wet the sponge, and then when everything goes wrong and the body starts burning up and it's just absolutely a complete horror show. He looks away, and Tom Hanks, holds him back, saying, look at what you did. Look at what you're doing. Like, don't look away. Like, you
Yeah.
have to take this all in because you fucked up. And he makes him extinguish him as well, which I thought was really important for him to fully kind of appreciate the shit he just did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he doesn't learn from it, so like
No.
fucking
He's
No.
just a spoiled brat. Yeah.
Uh,
That's kind of my review on the movie.
there,
It's very well made.
there was another
Gone.
there was another real execution that I just remembered about, but I do think that uh, this movie might have been based on that idea. There was this one black child that was convicted to the death chair for some stupid reason, and it's one of the most like horrifying kind of real life stories of just innocents being executed because racism, and it sucks. I wish I could remember that person's name, but this might have been based on that, but taking that childlike quality and putting it in an adult body. I don't know. There's some problematic elements to this, but I do think that the emotional weight still is earned, and I still think it's a very powerful film. I'm gonna give it an 8.
Great, Nate.
okay. I mean, I'll be honest here. If I take my rose-covered glasses off, yeah, I'm with you, Devin. It's an 8. But like rose-covered glasses on, I'm sorry, this is like problematic. I know it's problematic in many ways, but this is a 10 out of 10 film for me. Like this is one of my favorite films of all time.
Wow,
Like I love it.
Nice. Uh,
Like
go.
yeah,
like
no,
it,
I
it's
mean
amazing
official
just
rating
how
10 out of 10, but like yeah, like I
uh,
acknowledge that it's not perfect by any stretch of the
I don't
imagination
know.
and it might not have aged well, but it
It,
still
it
hits me. Like it
it
gets
it
me right
holds
in
up
the nostalgic
surprisingly
feels.
well. It does hold up surprisingly well, even considering all that. And actually, there was one line at the very beginning. It's a total throwaway line, but I enjoyed it, where all these old people, they couldn't decide on what show to watch, and they're watching like Moray, which isn't the name of this show.
All
Or
these
or was
people
it?
ever do is talk about fucking.
Yeah, oh, yeah, just all these hillbilly white trash. All they do is talk about fucking, and then they switch to some older movie, which
Uh,
is great.
I'm giving this one a 6.9 out of 10.
Ooh,
Nice. It's a very
blasphemy.
nice movie.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just don't like Stephen King because I'm kind of realizing that my favorite Stephen King adaptation is an adaptation that's nothing like his book, and that's The Shining. So maybe I'm just not a big fan of Stephen King, but love Stand By Me, love Shawshank Redemption. Not a big fan of your ghost stuff, Stephen.
I just want to shout out quick to Darryl for doing the research for me. Is the Green Mile based on a true story? The answer is complicated. We will dive into that later.
But now, 1 year hence, guys, it's time for The Green Knight. So, The Green Knight is directed by one David Lowery, which is who is a super underrated director. You could call him artsy, but I'd argue he's one of the few directors that actually earns it, and he isn't just the typical artsy fartsy, you know, what's the word for it? Like there's a name for the horror genre. Oh, sorry, elevated horror. Like he's a cut above that in my opinion. He actually knows what he's going for, and
he's
I kind
he's
of
elevated above that. You're saying?
exactly, yeah. He's kind of
Yeah.
like a hidden gem of sorts. Like nobody
He,
really knew who this guy was until this movie, and I was
What?
like one person who was. Well, a lot of people didn't really know who David Lowery was. Like they didn't know this guy. They didn't like anytime I bring up Ancient Body Saints, a lot of people are like, "What? Like what? What's that movie?" And a lot.
Yeah, Ain't Them Body Saints. A Ghost Story has picked up a huge amount of traction lately in the A24
Well,
community. They're all
lately,
about it
mostly because of this
recently.
movie.
Yeah,
I,
yeah, kind of, yeah, because everyone was like, if you like Green Knight, go watch it. And they were
yeah,
like, oh, I'll watch it
yeah,
now,
I'll definitely
finally.
watch it. Right, like,
Oh, screw the 4 minute pie scene. I'll give it a
and
chance. But more
this.
importantly, Tad, you gotta defend your boy. His Disney debut.
Yeah,
Oh, Pete's
fucking
Dragon.
Peach Dragon, man.
Yeah.
Like, leave it to David Lowery to actually know how to fucking make a live action remake or like a remake in general. Like, he just it's still to this day, like I will say, like the Peach Dragon remake. Like, I love the original. Don't get me wrong, but the remake is far superior in every way. Like it's just a wonderful film. It's probably my favorite of his so far. Like it's up there.
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah,
And
so there's a person from every camp in this conversation now.
absolutely, yeah. And I wasn't big on Pete's Dragon when it came out, but I also haven't seen it since it was released in theaters. So maybe I'll give that one another chance. And Ghost Story is great. Ain't the By Saints is one of my favorite romance movies of all time. And The Green Knight comes along. It's an adaptation of the tale of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. There is
Sir
precisely
Gawain.
one scripture of this text that has remained through time, and every other adaptation, from J.R.R. Tolkien's adaptation to other authors' interpretations, are their own interpretations, because only one text of this story exists, and that's of the Green Knights, coming to the round table and testing Sir Gawain for the first time. And this adaptation is much like the J.R.R. Tolkien adaptation, very strange, very out there. It's more like a fable where a character is kind of running into a bunch of strange events than a consistent traditional story. It's much more like an epic odyssey in that sense, or like a more serious version of Oh Brother Where Art Thou, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. And yeah, it's slower than you'd expect. It's kind of more of a deconstruction of the hero's journey than being the generic hero's journey story. And we need to talk about how A24 can't fucking market worth shit. Like every time they market a trailer for something, it's very different from what the filmmakers are going for, which is a little bit disrespectful for a company that like respects like directors' visions and leave them to have as much creative control as possible, just to go back on them and say, "Well, we don't really know how to advertise your movie without lying about it, so here we
Well,
go."
no. Let me let you in on a little secret. Okay, so A24 developed this little thing that works for them, which is if they have a movie that they know is fucking great, but they just wouldn't get asses in seats if they marketed it properly, they roll the dice and they give it to the like jazziest editor and are like, "How can you make this look like the next Exorcist?" And then it goes down this path of like revisions and the director has no say about it pretty much, and you end up with this very like messy marketing scheme. Whereas like I think a lot of the add-ons were very much more geared towards like D&D heads, people into long
Yeah, like
kind of
high
ethereal
fantasy
journeys that
epic
can take their
journeys.
times. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, like they knew who they were doing all the extras for, but to get the asses in seats they kind of had to make it look like King Arthur kind of thing, with
Yeah, I
giants he's
guess.
slaying and like maidens he's
Mm.
I can't really get into that
I mean, that
because
part's true.
But I
the,
think the
the
first
details. We'll
teaser
get there.
trailer they dropped, absolutely, I think still, I think it set my expectations right. Like I remember
Teaser
the
trailer
first
is,
trailer, it
yeah.
absolutely got my attention, and I thought, okay, this is gonna be something interesting and different, like it is a sword and fantasy kind of thing, but it looks like the direction of it is gonna be quite different, and that was all the impression that I got from it. I didn't look at any of the following trailers. It didn't make me think that it was gonna be something different than that. But yeah, when it came to actually watching the thing, I was thoroughly impressed with it, and absolutely, the trailer didn't feel like it misled me. Uh, but maybe I didn't have any certain like expectations. I don't even think I saw Lord of the Rings yet when that first trailer popped out, or maybe it was around that time that I did finally see it. I can't remember. But yeah, I just only saw Lord of the Rings on this podcast like a year or so ago, more than a year ago
Dude.
actually. But
I mean, I'm one of the few people who never actually watched this trailer, so I have no idea. I just went into the
yeah,
It
movie
was
completely
just
blind.
it was just more like sword and less sandal, whereas the movie's a lot more sandal and less sword. I think
Okay,
that's
It's
so
I
they
more
think
about the
marketed it as
journey.
like an
Yeah.
action movie, kind of.
Yes, very
Well,
much so.
they showed a lot of the swingings, and I think there's only like 3 blade swings that happen, and they're all in the trailer. And
Yeah,
like,
and there's also like
fucking
epic music playing, and
yeah,
yeah, it's like that's not what when I was watching the trailer with my mom literally looked at me and said, "That's not what the movie's gonna be like," and sure enough, it wasn't. And I think that disappointed a lot of people, and I can't entirely say I blame them, but at the same time, I would argue this. A lot of people say this film is style over substance, but I would argue there is a lot of substance there, just explored in a non-traditional way. And I think there is still a lot the film has to say about the inevitability of death and what it means to really be a hero in a torn up, distraught, death-ridden environment. And there's a lot of themes about like a kind of like a naive boy entering a dark, dangerous world for the first time, and I'd argue the film still has a lot of hurt to it, despite the fact that like it's not really a traditional narrative, and I guess there are certain parts of the story you could take out and not that much would change. And there's one plot convenience in particular that really pissed me off, but I don't know. Maybe it's because I love the director. This film really resonated with me on a deeper level, and I think especially at the climax. Like I had some middling
boo,
thoughts throughout the movie, and but the climax really brought it together for me.
Which one?
Oh, what do
boo.
you, what do you mean, boo? What do you mean, boo? Elaborate, Mr. Ailes.
I'm doing Tad for starters.
Oh, booing him for what? Oh, which climb? Oh, well,
There you
I'd say.
go.
Well, let's.
Thanks, Internet Explorer.
Well,
Get
let's
that
save the
line.
last 20 minutes. We'll say the last 20 minutes the film really
Okay,
came
there we
together.
go. There we go.
I
Smartass.
gotta hand it to you. That was good.
That was so
Boo.
subtle. I didn't even realize it. That
You
wasn't
thought
bad.
I was
That
just
was
doing
good.
you?
Yeah, no,
No,
yeah. I
I
thought you
wasn't.
were pulling
No,
Steven.
man.
Yeah.
I
You're
mean,
pretty
to
much
be fair,
spot on.
Ian gets booed on this podcast so often that
Yeah, I'm just used to it. You know, it's just second
he's
nature.
just used to it.
Yeah, what's
No,
that
the
Simpsons
second he
meme?
said climax and the second you booed it, I'm like, oh, I know what you're saying.
Okay. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, but I totally do agree
But
with you,
he's
Ian. Like, there is definitely a lot of substance here. It's just the film is very deliberately not holding your hand, and it's like, oh, like it knows what it's doing, but it's not gonna like,
It's
you
not gonna
know,
let you
it's.
know it knows what it's doing.
Yeah, I think it does let you know that it knows what it's doing. It's just not like it's not holding your hand. Like that's the best way I
Not at
can
all.
put it.
Yeah.
Like it's
no, it's
not.
holding your dick.
And it's
I'm still
jerking
on that.
off on a green scarf while an old lady watches. I remember watching Undefeated with you,
Who
Devin. You were
hasn't
just
been
like, "Oh
there, I mean?
God, Jesus Christ!" Like it got like such a visceral reaction out of you. What a very upsetting scene,
Of all
by
the
the way.
things I was expecting, I wasn't expecting to.
Yeah, and also, yeah, we'll talk about the film doesn't hold your hand. Alicia Vikander plays two different characters, and it's never really explained why. I have a theory on why that is, and I think it's because the witch made herself look like his lover so that he'd have a better chance of falling in love with her. And I think that's why I did it. But stuff like that is never really explained. Reason why Sir Gawain's mother summoned the Green Knight in the first place is left up into interpretation when it was more elaborated in like J.R.R. Tolkien's adaptation of the story. But I kind of like that about the
I
film.
thought she was. I thought they made it quite deliberate that she was summoning the knight because he was like drinking himself silly in a bar and like not doing anything with his life, and she
Well,
was like,
some
"Oh,
people
like
think she's also, because in the Tolkien adaptation at least, she's also trying to usurp the throne. And this was an elaborate excuse to kill him in a way that made it
Yeah.
seem like an epic adventure, but like she actually like wanted to usurp the throne and become queen. Because the thing is, King Arthur is dying. He dies at the end of the movie, so she would inevitably take over after he died because there would just be absolutely nobody else left.
Now, I do actually have a
Are we?
question.
Yeah.
Maybe
Are we
you
gonna
guys
go
know
there?
this.
Is that the okay?
Well,
Yeah, sorry,
that's
Oh,
go
an
ahead.
well, no,
interpretation, we'll say. Go on.
like I do have like a question. The voice of the fox,
Yes.
is that the same? Is that the same actress who plays his mom?
I didn't even think it was an actress. I thought it was a dude voicing the fox. That's an interesting thought. I think the fox was summoned by his mother. I don't think it's voiced by his mother, but I think it was
I
summoned
think
by
it
his mother. to help.
is. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's just having rewatched it. I was just like, wait, I think that's his mom. Like, but I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe I'm wrong.
I think it was his mom who played that original curse and summoned the Green Knight, which is really fascinating. It's like, was she trying to teach him a lesson the whole time?
No, she
Or-
summoned the Green Knight for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah,
she summoned.
that's interesting. And there's a lot of interesting like aspects about the film to kind of interpret and analyze itself, but I wouldn't bother interpreting the film if it didn't leave some kind of emotional impact on me. Maybe it's because I have such a connection with themes of death and the inevitability of death and how people react to tragedies in different ways and the inevitability of the world's destruction that I did resonate with the film. And when a film resonates with me, it's like, okay, I want to learn more about it. I want to like dissect this world and really absorb it. But it had to get me there first. So when a film like this, when I go back and want to watch a film like this interpreted, it's really saying something because it is very, very obtuse, almost to a kind of inaccessible degree.
I mean, there's no credit for the fox, so I'm gonna say it's the mother's voice with some funky effects on it.
Maybe.
That's my best guess.
That's true.
I did the research.
Or was
Sorry,
he
now I'm
hallucinating?
back.
Yeah, Daryl, why are you doing that research? What did the fox say?
Fuck you.
I think it was like something to the tune of how's your mother doing? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Like we gotta focus here. Let's talk about the Green Knight. It's gorgeous. Holy crap! This film had a $15 million budget, and it looks better than films with a $150 million budget. Like I am actually
I also
shocked
like.
this was shot at such a low budget.
I gotta say, as a big like fan of character design and that kind of aspect, and that's kind of like my thing right now.
Hmm.
The Green Knight
Oh,
himself
he looks so
is
good,
such a beautifully designed character.
and it's
Like
all
I we've
practical.
all seen the whole like, oh, I'm a plant dude, like half man, half plant or whatever. But
Poison
like
ivy.
there's some, yeah, poison ivy, swamp thing, that kind of stuff. But like there's something about his design and how like he's got like horns and he's got a very recognizable silhouette. And I love it. Like I if I had to like write a list of like characters that I think were perfectly designed, the Green Knight would be up there. Like it would be in top 5 easily. Like it's a
Oh,
very
100%.
iconic looking character.
And it's all
Well, like,
practical too. Like it's just the guy in a
Yes.
suit, which is again for such a low budget, he looks incredible. And of course, we're
well,
forgetting motherfucking Ray Feinstein voices him, and that guy has the coolest voice ever. There was a trailer for this movie that actually explored the history behind the tale of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. I was just like, yes, I could take like an hour and a half of this guy's voice.
how's yeah.
Yeah, so good. Yeah, and how the Green Knight was kind of like symbolic of like a Grim Reaper of sorts of stuff, like a generic bad guy that kind of looked like in the trailer. I really liked, and what's interesting was like he was a lot nicer to him when he finally accepted his death. Like I love the line where he's like, "Is this all there is?" He's like, "What else? Uh, what is there ought to be? Like, what else is there?" And it's just a very like it's such a simple line, but it really just makes you like hammers home everything the film has led up to this point. It's like, is this all there is? All of these incredible events, and it just leads up to this moment, and nothing more, nothing less. No epic return, nothing. And I don't know, that just lines like that resonate with me, and all of the performances are excellent. Like I haven't really seen Dev Patel Nathan in a while, but he absolutely crushed it. Alicia Vikander tried in a movie for once, which is not all that often, unfortunately, but she crushed it as well. There's so many scenes where actors do these really long monologues, these long takes, and they don't miss a single beat. Like I know people say like this is a style over substance movie, but at least on a performance level and the amount of lines they had to perform, like it's on the level of The Lighthouse. It's on the level of like a Tarantino movie. Just
Again, though, there's
incredible
nothing wrong
performances.
with style over substance.
That's
Like, I
nothing.
don't know why
We're
people
I'd
doing it
take.
say it's
again.
style and substance. Like the substance serves the style. It just in an unconventional way, and that's why it
I
doesn't
mean,
resonate with a lot of people.
I think regardless of that, I think the bigger thing is like what you were saying earlier. Like it's not necessarily one or the other. It's that this is a high art film among the likes of some of the, like you were saying, top tier high art. I'm not going to call it elevated horror because I do think it's just more like artistic horror films that are willing
It's
to
ascended horror. It's so
Yeah,
elevated. It's
it's
well,
ascended.
it used to be called art house. It's like music genre names. You know what I mean? Like call it whatever the fuck you want, but it's clearly a genre and it's clearly growing.
hmm
And these are definitely at the top tier of that. You know what I mean? And I think I can I always push it and I'm going to push it again. Fucking A Ghost Story is like the proto of this because you're taking something that
absolutely
had like such a minuscule budget. It was like
ten
basically
thousand
like a
dollars.
bonus that he was given
Yeah,
while making fucking Pete's Dragon. So he was just like, okay, we're making a ghost story finally.
and
And they had
nobody knew
like,
about it. Yeah,
yeah, no, and it was
I really need to
ridiculous.
see that.
yes, you do.
I'm advocating for your Silent Leech trilogy. I'd love to do that.
Oh my god, forever
Some
since
point in
we've.
the future.
Oh yeah,
I know, right?
how have we not done that one yet? Regardless of
I
that,
know.
um,
I can think of one reason, Steven.
well,
To
but
be
he
fair,
loves
Only
fucking
God forgives.
the
Yeah, he
Only God
loves that movie.
Forgives. Yeah, so
oh
like
yeah,
how are we not all on board? Regardless. So to me it's more so like this is like the amalgamation of like, and people don't always like Wes Anderson movies, but it's the same idea where like a director can bring together such proficient creatives that it like everything works. Like how you were saying, like maybe if Soylent Green had those that little bit more care for the bigger world and the state of everything and the background actors and gave that extra care,
This
it
is that
might
movie.
feel that way. But with this one it's like they you feel like they slaved over almost every single frame. And like big
Yes.
ups to Andrew Joe Palmero who shot both Ghost Story and Green Knight, and like
Holy
they
shit.
are phenomenally beautiful films. Like again, I'm gonna put it in the top tier. Like James Laxton, who shot like Moonlight and If Only Beale Street Could Talk. Like those two are like two very underappreciated DOPs functioning right now that I think on a technical level are like reaching top of the game, but nobody seems to care about them. So big shout out to them real quick, and that was my big rant. Thanks.
Yeah. And here's
All
another
right.
crazy thing. This film wasn't nominated for any technical awards. It wasn't
Don't even
nominated
get me
Yeah,
for
because the
anything.
Academy Awards suck.
Okay,
They also hate
like
A24
not
a lot of the time.
even costume design. Like the costumes in this are so cool. Like I love the weird crown
Yeah,
design he has
because
at
the
the start of the
Academy
movie.
Awards
Or
suck.
oh yeah,
It's the
because they're
time of
stupid.
year that
yeah.
it came out.
Well,
Says
it's
the person
July.
who has the belt right now.
But I
Fucking
mean,
time.
that's not the first time like July movies have been nominated for something on Oscars. Like Mad Max Fury Road was nominated
No,
for
it
tons of
fucks
Oscars.
every like you have to do a huge push to make up
I
for it, man.
guess.
It really is.
They really
weak.
did. Like it was in the short lists and everything, but it just didn't make it, which is bizarre
Ugh.
to me. Like at least costume design, at least visual effects. Like yeah, some of the CGI of the fox is a little bit shoddy, but when you realize this film had a like a tenth of the budget of Wonder Woman '84, you know, like it's
Literally.
really miraculous what they could pull off, and it's very ambitious for such a low budget project too. Even though not a lot happens to it, there's a lot of like they always shoot outdoors. There's beautiful imagery of like the giants like walking off into the distance. You know, the whole
The
Green
underwater
Knight, the
sequence.
effects. Yeah, the underwater
That's not
sequence.
easy to pull off. That's a
Not at all.
gigantic tank, and to do that
Yeah.
stylistically, oh my
Yeah,
god.
and that's
on a
exactly
budget.
how they did it. Like they basically did a tank and surrounded it with LED screens that turned pure red. Like that's incredibly ambitious for such a low budget
wild.
project, and they pull it off with flying colors. Like when I finished the movie, I was like, okay, this has to be like 60 million, $80 million budget. Looked at the budget, I'm like, how did you pull it off?
Oh, I
That's
I guess
crazy.
that's where the red in the background of the poster came from.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it fits.
Was that to create like a color separation? Like it was like a red screen, basically.
Basically, yeah. Like it was just a bunch
Wow.
of LED screens blasted red, and there's a lot of
That's
like
wild.
practical effects. Like even like we haven't talked about like the ghost who belongs in that house, who is an actual historical figure. Like yeah, the story is true.
Winifred?
Where, yeah, Winifred, the ghost of
Okay.
Winifred. Like even the flying effects were practical. Like they literally just lifted her up on a cable. Like that wasn't CGI or anything, and it's like a little detail. Like you didn't even have to show it or anything, but the fact that they put so much effort into it is like you said, Daryl. They just put so much effort into like lovingly crafting every frame, and I kind of like the kind of fable-like nature to it, and all of the characters they run into.
And
they all tie into
I like
the
how
field
it.
of death in
I like
interesting
how
ways.
it's a distillation of the whole hero myth. Like he didn't start
absolutely.
off as heroic, and in fact, this is him
And he
just kind
fails
of
a lot.
owning up
Yeah,
to
you
his
could argue
own-
even by the end he's not heroic. Like,
Well, I'd argue
No,
he
but
is. But
it's
yeah,
it's the fact that he's finally accepted his fate and accepted um his like comeuppance. Like, oh, I did this to myself. I should accept what's coming to me, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
he's sort of heroic. He becomes heroic in that sense, but there's a real arc there where he doesn't start off as virtuous, but he behaves in the way that he thinks a hero is supposed to, and he just sort of acts without thinking. And then, you know, I guess he didn't fully understand the terms he agreed to. He didn't read all the fine print, and he
Yeah.
just said accept. Um,
yeah, I feel like
but
it's
now
kind of
he's
the opposite arc, which
running up
is
to that.
interesting. Yeah, it's kind of a unique take where it's still a hero's journey. It's still essentially about a man that's down on his luck that kind of like has to find not so much his courage, but kind of accept the world as it really is and find a way to deal with that. But it's kind of done in a different way. And Steven's here to shit on the movie, so I'm gonna let him steal the floor for a minute. Have at her.
No, hi.
We just establishing how we believe that this film is a great subversion of the hero's journey. And yeah, now
Well, I mean, I don't.
have at it.
I don't want the. It feels like I just joined and the air went out of the room. No.
That's Steven, everybody. Thank you. Good night.
Oh man. Hey guys. So I'm Steven Beeson. I'm just hopping on here for a minute. I didn't have time to watch the other films this week, but I have seen The Green Knight, and wanted to just hop on and share my piece because I'm laughing. Anyway, no, here's my problem. I think And I hate to say this because I think usually this criticism is very shallow and empty, but I think for this film it fits, where the greatest sin that this movie could commit is to be boring. If I don't feel anything, that's worse than if I absolutely hate this film, in my eye. We talked about that with Raw as well. You know, it was Julia Ducournau last week. We talked about where, you know, she said, "Well, you felt something." You know, there was an angry heckler in the crowd, and here, I think there are ideas. I mean, the cinematography is incredible. I enjoy the practical effects. I mean, the Green Knight himself looks incredible, but ultimately, this story just feels so hollow. It feels undercooked. It feels unfinished. And I think that's very frustrating because you have a lot of talented people involved here. But, you know, I saw a film critic one time, a reviewer, um, that was talking about, you know, it's not enough to just shoot something in the way Tarkovsky or Kubrick might and expect your audience to ascribe meaning to these, you know, long sweeping shots, you know. That's not enough. You have to have something there to back all of that up. And I don't think this film has that. I think it comes close to it in a lot of ways, but I could not connect with this film. And by the time that it actually like gets to the climax where this
Which one?
character, well, good point. No, the ending with the Green Knight himself.
Damn
In
it,
other words,
Ian, you
you know,
stole my joke.
the end of
You're welcome.
the end of the journey. By the time it gets to that, I'm so uninvested. I don't even care that this is his arc. You know, I think about with with regards to this film, it's like, you know, that whole sequence where they're like out in the field and you have the Barry Keoghan character, and there's this whole like it takes up what feels like 20 minutes of just, you know, he's tied up, and it's like you could cut that from the movie and it would be better. Like it would feel, you would have room for the pacing. You're
Are you
watching these characters.
you're talking about him getting mugged? That whole scene?
Yep.
I
Yeah, that
disagree
whole
then.
scene.
Yeah, that's
So
tension.
so
That's one of the more pivotal ones.
Yeah.
this is what I feel like that scene meant, actually, because I was thinking about that scene specifically. When you were also talking about like the lawn sweeping shots of him, there's like a reveal. So he gets mugged in the woods. He's off on this hero's journey, and he thinks he's gonna go off and be a hero. And it's when he gets mugged by these lowlives after this battle that he realized he's not all that. He is not made of the stuff that heroes are made of. He's kind of a loser, and that's starting to bite him in the ass. And I feel like that was a real pivotal scene in the movie because he's realizing, oh shit, I maybe am not cut out for this. I've gotta be better. I've got to be a better person, or I'm gonna fucking die in these woods. And that's what that whole panty shot of him revealing to his skeleton and then waking back up meant to me is, oh, I'm actually at the mercy of the elements.
No,
I'm
but
not an
no,
invincible
but
hero like I
no,
believed
but
I
when you
myself to be.
spend like what I mean, at least 2 hours and 15 minutes of this guy being an asshole and doing everything wrong, why
I
am I
don't know if it
supposed
goes
to
that
care?
far. I don't know if it goes that far. I think
No,
at
Because
no,
times
him
it's
I'm
being the
pretty
saying
asshole
reasonable.
is
he's
the
a
point, Steven.
And also, at
Him,
times,
no.
that's
he,
But
very
how,
the point,
reasonable.
no. But what I'm saying is, if he's such an insufferable tool the entire film, why am I supposed to care when he
Well, I
suddenly
mean,
has a change of
Cusco
is
is an insufferable tool for 90%
because
of
that's
Emperor's
called
New
character
Groove.
development.
Yeah, are you a
You
fan of A
know,
But
Clockwork
Yeah.
Orange?
it goes too long. You needed like there needed to be something to give him some form of humanity in the meantime. Because I mean, you have this whole sequence with like the lady of
just
the
gonna let you
lake,
guys
and
tear
it's
him
just
apart.
Are you a fan of A Clockwork Orange?
I have not seen that one yet. It has
Oh.
been on my to watch list
Well,
forever.
you may not like it.
Or
That's a
you
fair
may
point.
love it, and then you
Ye-
may be eating your words later.
Yeah, exactly. One or the
No,
other.
I know, but see, this is what I'm talking about, though. I mean, I think we can all say that David Lowery is not to the level of Kubrick. I mean, I can't think of a single filmmaker who is.
He's on his
But
way.
well,
I said it.
well, I
He's-
mean,
Look at Kubrick's early work versus
He's
his early
going
work.
for
He's
something
on the way.
different. I'm
well,
not gonna
and
compare the two.
Same with Aster. Oh,
and here's the thing.
Oh,
Oh,
I mean,
Here's the
even
thing.
for
And
me,
now the
that's too
dirt
far.
starts flying.
well, and I haven't seen any others of Lowry's filmography, but I just, man, you look at this film, and I mean, just on Rotten Tomatoes, like the disparity between. Hold on, just a second, because I do want to, I do want to bring this up, and I do have to get
Hold
going.
up, Jamie.
Yeah.
Yeah, Final Thoughts.
So, I mean, looking at the disparity, it's 89 critic score, 50% audience score. And I mean, I think that speaks to what I'm talking about. I mean, I think this is definitely a film that you either love or hate. And I feel like for me to come out of it and just be like, I feel like that's a bad sign.
That's fair.
And maybe it's a me problem. I don't know. I've seen lots of people that
That's
echo
what I was
my.
gonna say.
No, I mean, I've seen lots of people that have echoed my sentiments. I've seen lots of people who love this film. I've seen lots of people who are, just hate it. I think it is a very well done cinematography showreel. That's what I think this is.
What about the
it is
acting?
a fantastical technical demo. But as far as its own story, its own interesting narrative and compelling sort of story, it feels so underwhelming.
Well, what about on
Well,
acting level? What would you say there?
I mean, I think the performances are good for what they are, but I don't think these actors have have a lot to work with. You
enough.
guys can't see it if you're listening at home, but I am laughing at the Discord chat of
don't
people
even-
just shitting on my opinion right now.
Hey,
But
don't drag me into that.
no.
no, it's just me.
No, I don't hate this film. I wanted to enjoy it more than I did.
That's totally fair.
Yeah, no, I mean, different strokes. I'm gonna be headed off, guys. I will see you guys next week, where we'll be talking about some mindfuckery films with
yes.
Total Recall, Enter the Void, and Dogtooth. So thank you.
Steven, I'm
Thank-
going to give you an opportunity to give you a rating so that us
Oh.
nerds don't destroy it with a 10 out of 10.
Well, Steven, won't
Well-
you rate it? Be honest.
I think it's a very fair 5 out of 10. I think half of it is really great, but I think the pacing and the narrative overall just kind of, there's like half of it that I just could do without.
That's fair.
But
I hope
I
you're
will
comfortable on
see-
that fence.
yes, exactly.
Now you know how it feels. Have a great night,
And
buddy.
I will see you guys next week. Thank you guys for letting me vent.
Hey,
Good night. Good night,
Enjoy it.
everybody.
have a great night, Steven. Let's talk about the
Uh,
ending before we close
Let,
off.
us just clear the air here first for a second. I gotta let that gas dissipate.
Oh, come
that big
on.
green stinker.
Hey.
I don't know. It's just a lot of hot air on my end. It's like
Yeah.
it's going through the mic or something.
Easy now.
No,
Well,
I gotta credit Steven. He's very good at forming his own opinions and being very true and adamant to them, and it always makes for better discussions when we have a foe to work with. I very much respect his own opinion of this movie.
well,
I do think that there is a lot more substance that that meets the eye, and I do think that
I
there
agree.
is some narrative stuff that some people just didn't pick up on. I really deeply resonated with it in ways that I didn't quite understand, but I do think it's this subversive kind of hero's journey where this person gets into a situation thinking he knows what it's about, and then realizing it's just not the case. And I do think that there's much substance in that.
Yeah, it very much feels like a fairy tale. Like the whole nature of a childlike person entering this dangerous world that they don't know anything about. And I found it very fascinating in that sense. And let's talk about the ending. Oh, sorry, the
Yo, I
endings.
fucking love the ending.
That's where, like, I had some issues with the film before. Like, oh, he loses his axe just to get it back, and sometimes the pacing was a little bit sluggish for me. But as soon as I got to that ending, I'm like, I can't even be mad at this film anymore. Like, it just comes together so well. I love how it's essentially just a silent movie when it shows the potential vision of him going back and like living a miserable life, and ties into the fact that like him and Alicia Vikander could never be together, like they alluded to near the start of the movie. And
They
I love
do get together. He's just a dick and like abandons her
no
for someone
the
younger.
way
It's
I
it's all
interpret
resonant
that
from
is
what
that
he
he
went
wasn't
through.
allowed
You know what
to.
I mean?
Yeah, the way
Like
it,
he
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
I
that way
love the
because
fake
he
out
went.
ending where you see this vision of him saying that he killed the Green Knight, and he's given all this false praise, and this whole empire builds around it that eventually comes crumbling down, and it's all shown in slow motion. I love that. It's almost like an entire Breaking Bad arc kind of
So
thrown in
good.
the middle of
a
that,
little
you
bit,
know?
yeah. It really
But it's
hammers the
also
point home.
the way it plays, right? Like it doesn't immediately like there's no jump point where it's like, oh, we're in a vision now. Like it
No,
just leads you that way, and it doesn't really hold your hand. And
like
it's
he
like, okay,
runs
this is
away,
jumping
and
around a
yeah,
lot. I really hope this isn't the epilogue. And like it just the way it leaves you with the pace, like it really kicks into gear properly, and like I don't know, it does drive its point home a little hard in all of it, but still,
it
like you're
earns it.
saying, it's like a
Yeah.
silent film. It has to. Sorry.
Absolutely, and it ties into the theme of death, where like he's literally trying to run away from death, but eventually it comes back to him anyways, and he kind of has to learn to accept it at long last, and that's why he takes out the green sash that allows him to survive a blow to the head, and yeah,
Yeah,
and
blow to the
here's the
head.
thing.
And one below the belt too.
Yo, yeah, one below the belt for sure. A very horrifying sexual assault scene. Very well done,
Come
very well
on,
acted,
guys.
but yeah, it's
Man,
something. But
what's with these movies and the sexual assault, huh?
yeah, I know it's
Too
horrifying. But
too much
here's
crotch grabbing for
my
me.
question before we close up for final thoughts: did the Green Knight kill him?
Yeah, I didn't even realize that at first. I'll be the first to admit, just if anybody out there's listening and is like Darryl and is dumb, I just thought he was like, yeah, off with your head, you're fucked. And I was like, cool, nice, like final ending. And everyone else I was with was like, no, they said off with your head. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
you
I
could
guess
also
it can
interpret
be
it
two ways.
as you can also interpret it as like that was like a joke. Like that was like, yeah, off with your head, get out of here, you scoundrel. And it could tie in with the theme of like the mother made that Green Knight to test him, and he
Well, the
finally
vision is it
passed.
too,
Yeah,
The ego,
right?
yeah.
Like the seeing the vision is
Like
might be the true like changing point for him.
the
Like it's I don't
I
know,
think the
yeah.
lesson learned here
probably
is ego
obvious.
death.
Well, the lesson
Yeah.
learned here is that you gotta accept death with dignity. It's gonna come for you either you like it or
Hmm.
not. And if you accept it with dignity, you can live a peaceful life instead of
Especially the
trying to
way the
run away
Green
from it.
Knight like caresses his chin. That's a very motherly thing to do.
Yeah, like even the
Well,
way
he
he
doesn't
like
just
kneels down
caress
to
his
him too.
chin. He also like puts his finger across his throat like he's cutting it.
Yeah.
Like
Oh yeah.
that's a very deliberate move. Like
Well, do you think he killed him?
me
Sad?
personally, I think he lets him go because, like you said, Ian, like that's kind of the whole point. Is like he learns to embrace death and he learns not to fear it, and now he can go live life, not having to worry about it. And it's kind of like that old tale of like the guy who like befriends death, and when he finally meets him in the end, they meet as friends, or they meet as like on equal playing grounds in a way. Like it's
You get together
yeah.
and play chess.
Yeah.
Yeah, the most elaborate game of chess. Well, guys, what would you rate it?
I'm gonna give it a solid 8.
Nice. Giving this one a 9 out of 10. One of my favorites from 2021, and it still is. Still holds up. Sorry, Steven.
It's gonna be a 9.5 from me. That extra
Ooh.
half is fuck you to Steven.
Hey, come on.
No, I'm kidding. I feel
I
I
love the spite scores. Like it's like how Steven upped his score last week on fucking Green Inferno to 10 out of 10 solely out of spite.
Yeah, I heard that. So we're playing loose with it now. No, I'm
Oh
kidding.
yeah.
Yeah, no, but legitimately, I'm pretty sure my rating hasn't changed from like the second time I saw it in theaters, and I wrote that review on it. I'm always kind of been a 9.5 out of 10 for me because, well, one, I want to be a cinematographer, so that's always going to play a bit more of a part for me, and two, the like the movie just hit all the marks for me. Like it had me kind of doubted at points, which like some may say is just like a bad thing if you ever felt that way, but I think it was on purpose, and I think there is a point to having elongated sequences as much as Steven may say there isn't. I really dig the pacing of the movie, so it just pushes it right into the 9.5 for me.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I really love the long slow-mo sequence at the end showing his empire crumbling, where he's sort of visioning what if he lived his life in a lie from now on, and how terrible would that be? And then contrasting that to him just accepting his fate, and then again that big slow deliberate 360 pan around of him being tied up in the woods and then him dying, um, and just becoming indifferent to nature, right? Or nature becoming indifferent to him, like he's just sort of dies insignificantly, and that's enough to terrify him to get out of the situation. I think that that's very powerful, and I think that those scenes really show a lot without telling. Um, but some people obviously miss the point. You have to explain it to
Hey,
them.
yeah. I don't
Not
want.
saying any names
I
here,
never want to say
but
that. Like, I never want to be that guy that says, "Oh, you
no,
just
no,
don't get it."
yeah. Everybody views these things differently. I remember first time I tried showing Baraka to somebody. I know you and I love that film, Ian, and
Mhm.
they were just bored of it. They didn't like it, and I said, "You watched it wrong."
Yeah, but you're wrong. But you're wrong though.
Yeah, it's because I couldn't argue with them, but it's like you totally missed on the
But
transcendental
yeah,
experience
come on,
that I had, and I
man.
wish that you had it.
Yeah,
So
bro, like transcendent shit. Tad, what
you're
would you
supposed
give
to, yeah.
Green Knight out of 10?
It's an 8, definitely an 8.
Great, mate.
Yeah, like it. I don't know what else I can say other than what you guys have already said. Like it's a wonderful film. I love the mood, the atmosphere. I love the characters and the kind of like deconstruction of you know the hero's journey, and I like the kind of like road trip aspect of like he has these different tasks that
Okay.
he has to accomplish, and whether or not he fails or supports them kind of all hinges on that kind of journey. And yeah, no, I think it's a wonderful fantasy film. It's a breath of fresh air, especially when most fantasy films kind of lean towards that Lord of the Rings style. Like we have to be an action film with sword fights and shit. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
like it's either going to be Lord of the Rings or it's going to be Monty Python and the Holy Grail. This is finally adding a third option to the whole.
yeah, exactly, 100%. Like, and yeah, the Green Knight is a wonderfully designed character. So
He looks
8 out of
super
10.
cool.
I love it.
Great,
Hell
mate.
yeah.
And thank you, Tad and Daryl, for guest starring on this episode. This was a very, very good discussion. Do not think less of me. I had a lot of fun tonight, you guys. Tune in next week. As Stephen mentioned before, it is all about mindfuckery. For the first time, I'll be watching Dogtooth. I have a fun story to share about killing of a sacred deer. Basically, I had heart surgery in the past, and the open heart surgery in that film was horrifying, and I
Oof.
hated it, so I never watched the full movie. So, more on that
Oh
next
man.
week, along with Enter the Void, and Total Recall, which I haven't seen in years. So, look forward to that discussion. Stephen will be guest starring, so if you enjoyed his voice, well, you get more of it next week. Have a great night, guys, and as Stephen would say, stay tuned for Conan. And this is the first day yet. Have a great night, guys. See